So I'm here with Nate Meeker and Shaun, Byrne, two amazing college esport experts. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Thank you for having us, Bubba.
Well, thanks for being on the NJCAAE stream. I've known you guys for a while and seeing all the great things you've been doing. I want to jump into some questions, and we're going to do this kind of all three of us here. Nate, let's start with tell me what you do, what school you're at, and how long you've been there.
Sure. So I'm the director of esports at the University of Akron. I've been back here working for the esports program at the University of Akron for about 3.5, 4 years now. So job encompasses pretty much everything under the sun. There's some teaching involved, some curriculum development involved, some recruitment involved, some program coordination involved, some budgetary things involved, some hiring involved, some internship processes involved, pretty much anything under the sun revolving around higher education and admin work. There's a little bit of that to the job for sure. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of hours during the day.
Yeah, 100%. I love it, man. All right, Shaun, tell me where you're at, what school, and how long you've been there.
Yeah, so I'm the esports director at St. Clair College in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. So a little geography lesson. We're about 10 minutes south of downtown Detroit. Might sound bizarre to think of us in Canada as being south, but we are. Look at the map.
I'm going to have to add a map in here.
Yeah, you have to check that
Visual.
out. But yeah, so we were the first Canadian school to launch in 2017. So we've had a varsity program since then. I also built an academic program which we launched in 2019. So we have, in addition to varsity, we also have a 2-year esports diploma program as well. So my time's kind of split between both of those. Technically, I'm employed by the student union for the varsity job and by the college for the academic job. So I'm kind of wearing two big hats. Luckily, I've been given some help now, so I've got some great staff on board. But like Nate was mentioning, wearing a ton of hats every day is different, and there's a lot of different responsibilities. I think it's just the reality of it is most schools are still looking at esports as something that can be done by one person, and really it's the equivalent to launching a new athletics department. You need to fully flesh it out with a lot of staff. So it's a building process, and we're going to get there eventually. But for us in this, starting this up in the first place, the pioneers, it's a lot of work.
Love it. Well, thank you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about building a community tonight, but we're building actually an online community. But I think building a community outside of that is also pretty important. We're going to talk a lot about college. I do want to kind of look at what you guys have both, you mentioned, and Nate, we talked about it earlier, is the academic side. And I heard, Nate, you were teaching some stuff on campus. I don't know if you guys know, I'm an adjunct professor as well. So I love higher ed, about 8 years for me. So I'm glad we're in this space. And Nate, what's going on academically at Akron that is around esports and gaming?
Sure. So there's a couple different things currently. One, on the official front, we have a certificate program for students that are interested in the realm of the business side of things. So there's folks that are coming into the school and they're looking to get some additional experience. We're able to provide them with some real world experiential learning opportunities to put on events. And they're getting credits to put on these events, learn how these events are organized from professionals in the field. And we're helping push them into the job field with that experience through that degree program. In addition to that, we've got about 40 students currently that are doing internships for us in a variety of different ways. So they're not fully focused curriculum programs, rather they're students who are interested in getting more experience in the realm of esports, and we work with their academic program to offer a paid internship for them. So we've got internships in education, in sports science, in psychology, in sports management, and a lot in the communications realm as well. So students that are interested in these different areas can get paid while they're going to school to get that experience that is, to be totally honest, so hard to get when it's not a completely voluntary activity. And then that in turn helps them or helps guide them into the job field afterwards.
Yeah, love it. Thanks, Nate. Shaun, what's going on academically around gaming and esports with the Saints?
Yeah,
Thanks,
so
Shaun.
I mentioned before we launched our academic program in 2019. So it's a 2-year diploma program. Um, Basically, at its core, you could look at it basically like a sports and rec management program, except we're kind of taking out the sports classes and building new esports classes to take their place, right? So, for example, this semester I'm teaching intro to esports. I'm teaching intro to sports management, and to the first years, and then to the second years, I'm teaching an administration of esports projects capstone course. So the first year is really spent kind of giving students the basic foundations of sports management, esports knowledge, and then some content creation and that kind of stuff as well. And then by the time they get to the second year, they're able to put that stuff to the test and do real world projects. So, for example, we've got students partnering with a local, esports bar that's in town to run events there. We've got other groups that are creating like educational content. They've done a couple of Q&A sessions one was with like a pro level Rocket League commentator. One was with actually an esports director at another school from Texas. So they're putting on, these little podcasts to help teach students, their fellow co-students, like where to go after education, how do they get jobs in the field, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, just a mix of business, a mix of content creation, and a mix of esports. It's kind of what our program is meant to do. Hopefully in 2 years they graduate and they're ready to take my job or something.
Now, you talked about recreation sports management. Now for me, I love this side of it. I worked in sports for 20 years. My degree is actually recreation management. How do you guys see that correlation? I know we're esports. We're a bit of a gatekeeping ecosystem and community. But how do you see the parallel that I think we all have talked about in many, many ways to many different people on many different panels? But I really want to hit that is the parallel between that sports management, academic side, recreation management, and how it really ties in. I guess, Shaun, really to you, how are you using that right now in the first part of your, I guess, intro and that first part of your curriculum?
I think the biggest thing I'm trying to get across to the students is in esports, you often see two groups that are doing it wrong. You see the group that is coming fully from the academic side or fully from the athletic side and trying to take it and port it over 100%. Okay, so you've got that group doing it, and there's a lot of things from athletics that just don't work in esports. Then you've got this other group on the esports side that are completely ignoring 100 years, 150 years of athletics history and saying, we don't want any of that. Like all of those lessons you've learned, we don't want to learn anything from them. So both of those groups are kind of doing it wrong, in my opinion. It's the group in the middle who's like, okay, I understand esports, I understand athletics, like where do these things fit? Like what can I learn from esports? What can I ignore? And that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm really trying to get across to students is like, like this specific example happened in athletics and we see it happening again in esports. Why does it have to happen again? Why can't we learn from those mistakes and, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
That's where I see it is, I think you can learn from what has happened in athletics and bring it over to esports, but I also think you shouldn't 100% take everything from athletics and try to force it into esports.
Yeah, good mix, Shaun, for sure. I mean, the mix is important. I think Nate, you're doing it right. When I think about what your program has established, tell me, Nate, about the start of your esports program. I mean, how many years ago was that? I can't remember. And where do you live? What department do you live under?
Sure. So we're late 2017 was the inception of the program, going into 2018, launching the facilities on campus. And we've had a couple different houses on campus. A lot of different things were talked about from the onset. Like as Shaun mentioned, athletics was talked about as a potential home. Academics was talked about as a potential home. We started off in the honors college on campus. That wasn't the perfect fit. Currently, we are in student life on campus, which does feel like a pretty good fit for many parts of the program for us, where we've got aspects that are very similar to traditional student life type activities, where we're providing club experiences for students. We're providing opportunities for students to connect. It's a retention program, so it makes a lot of sense. And then there is that varsity component, which does have a lot of an athletic feel. And as Shaun mentioned, we're trying to do our best to pull the best parts out of sports management and say, these fit what our program is doing, these fit the needs of our program, and these fit the future directions of our program to try and provide the best experience for the students that are on those varsity teams. But there's been a lot of schools that have worked it in a different way and are experiencing success with that. So I don't think it has to be in one particular home or area. It just has to have the right guidance within the area that it sits in.
Now, is your school, how does funding work in your school, and who's supportive of all this, of all the esports programming that you do?
Yeah, we were honestly pretty lucky. Early on, our administration has been very supportive of us. It was led from the top down. Our president started the initial push at the time in 2017 to bring an esports program to campus. It was supported by the board, and then on down through academics, and then the students obviously are very supportive of us as well. For us, it's been great to be able to see those different components come together. Well, the administration has seen what it's provided to the students, the staff has seen what it's provided to the students, and then the students are then able to go back to the administration and the staff and say, look what this program has brought for us. How can we potentially incorporate it into other areas on campus? For us, funding primarily works as we're a general fund unit. So we're funded by student fees or from the fees that are paid in from the state, which has worked out pretty well. We haven't needed to charge students to use the facilities or anything like that. So it's all free for the students. It's another student service on campus. And that's been a very positive experience for our students as well.
Awesome. Shaun, where does esports live in St. Clair?
So I'll start with like the easy part of the question, which is the academic program. Our esports administration program is housed in the School of Business on the academic side, and funded through tuition like any other academic program. The varsity program is housed under the student union, which our student union is technically a separate not-for-profit from the school. It's kind of almost like a symbiotic relationship. So we're housed under the student union. Our student union also oversees like a lot of the food services and a lot of the clubs and various student activities and stuff like that. So that was kind of where we ended up falling early on. And when we were having the conversations in 2016, there were people from athletics at the table as well. They kind of pushed us away, and for a different reason than you might think. Athletics is a little bit different in Canada. It's not on the same scale, the same level as it is in the US. Like you look at most of our facilities and you'd be like, yeah, it's a high school facility, cool. But no, this is a college facility. Like it's different, like it's a whole different scale. We don't have football stadiums with 100,000 people in them for college football. It doesn't happen. So they kind of steered us away because I think we would have hit our ceiling a lot faster if we were housed under athletics. So under the student union, we actually have more freedom to build the program we want it to be. And my vision and the vision that I've been talking about from the beginning is we've got this kind of window of opportunity to build a program that can compete against the top schools in the US. None of our basketball team, football team, whatever, they can't compete against American schools at the top level, but our esports teams can. And I think we have the window of solidifying ourselves in that position. So that's what we're doing. Now, in terms of funding, really, we're taking money from a variety of different places and building out our budget. It doesn't come from one specific direction, but a big chunk of it is sponsorship. We do have some really solid sponsors on board. Subway, Tim Hortons, our alumni association is a huge sponsor of the program. We brought on Crunchyroll this year, which is kind of like an anime streaming service as a sponsor, and they're helping us out a lot. So that's probably the biggest pool of money for us. We utilize student work study positions wherever we can. So we're lucky to have to be able to pull from like a work study pool to create some of our positions. So that helps us out as well. And then we also have some that's coming from student fees, kind of in an indirect way, right? Because the student union does get a certain portion of student fees, and then we get a little portion of that, So in the long run, where do I think things go? I think we'll end up at some point being able to get an actual esports student fee, just like athletics has. we're just not quite there yet. Hopefully within the next couple of years we can get there. We're still, even though our esports program, I would say, is doing things that our athletics program has never done before already, we're still functioning on like a fraction of their budget. So
Yeah.
I think we'll be able to, even just from the viewership perspective alone, like
Mm-hmm.
I think October, November, we've had, over 500,000 views each month, right? And it's kind of
Nice.
wild to think our athletics program would probably take them 10 years to get that viewership. So, so I think over time I'll be able to convince them and get some, like, an actual esports student fee in place eventually, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned the stadiums with 100,000 people. I think there's a lot of good football, Nate, where you're around. Is there football in the area? Is that a big deal?
Yeah, football is a pretty big deal in the state of Ohio. One of the 100,000 person college stadiums that Shaun was referencing is 45 minutes down the road from us. Or actually, we are currently, because we're in Columbus right now, we're about 15 minutes away from that stadium.
How many other Division I esport programs are competing at your level, competing against you or with you?
So, I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at it. I don't really like to point a finger at the varsity level and say that's really what we should be setting the bar to, because I think we're excluding a lot of students that could potentially be interested in the program. So at the varsity level, if we're only looking at that, there's very few D1 schools that are doing what we're doing in the States, and there's probably a million reasons why a lot of them haven't really bought in yet. If you're looking at an overall level, we've been lucky enough to have the funding to be able to hire 3 amazing professional staff members. I've got 42 students that work for the program in some capacity or another. There's half a dozen programs around the country that would be a competitor for us in that. And there are a lot more that are currently building out those programs right now. But I think the main hesitancy so far has just been schools are unable to identify where they may be able to find the funding for these programs. And they're having a hard time finding professionals to work in the field. So if you're a student out there who's perhaps watching, would definitely encourage you to get involved. If you've got a high school program, if you've got a college program, get involved, get that experience, go out there and be the next Nate or Shaun moving into the field for sure, because we definitely need more professionals.
Building that community, is there recreation programs happening at your institution that are helping build that community for not only the gamers but the fans and the students on campus?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say it's mostly targeted to students. Fans are probably more of alumni fans of the program, rather than what your traditional athletic fans would be, where it's regional or city based. But we do get a lot of alumni connections, like as Shaun mentioned, which is very good for your funding overall, because they're able to come back in, make some donations to the program. Maybe they're funding scholarships for the program or equipment for the program. But yeah, we definitely do. We're doing weekly or nightly events for community type things. Some of these are recreational in nature. Some of them are competitive in nature. It kind of depends on the game title. And we follow along with whatever the new game title is out or whatever's popular for the students that are playing. We're hosting a couple of events per week for those type of games, getting folks to come out, broadcasting the events, making sure that folks are engaged. They've got something that is keeping them engaged on campus and with one another. But it's very important in that community building aspect to build out those connections, not only at your internal college, but finding opportunities for your students to connect outwards with other students at other colleges or potentially high schools, if you're looking to connect that way, so that they can build out their programs and then you can connect more students that way as well.
Love it. Shaun, a little bit of analytics question here for your Twitch streams. If you look at that stuff, you said the viewer amount. How do you think that's panning out for local? When I talk about community here, I'm thinking, and Nate touched on it, like local fans that would come, or let's say they come to your football game, right? Because all the fans buy tickets, and that model we've talked about where you're getting a lot more viewers. Is there going to be a shift in esports, do you think, to what you're doing, to where the fans are really watching, and maybe it's not local, it's the other teams? Is it the alumni that Nate mentioned? I guess first of all, where are those viewers coming from, Shaun?
I think the viewers right now, it's not like local fan bases or anything like this. It's generally viewership on some of the high level competitions. Like if you get a team into the CRL, for example, for Rocket League, which is the highest level of competition, those streams are getting 20, 30,000 viewers every weeknight, right? So there's a lot of views there. If you're getting in a top level Call of Duty team, Call of Duty was getting some really good numbers last year as well, 10 or 15,000 viewers. Additionally to that, prior to the pandemic, we were running weekly Super Smash Bros. Events. Those events, maybe live viewership is fairly low, but you get a lot of recorded viewership. A lot of our clips were getting picked up on a weekly basis and inserted into highlight videos that were getting hundreds of thousands of views, right? So we haven't had that for the last year and a half because of the pandemic. So our viewership currently has been mostly from a decent chunk coming from our own live viewership and YouTube video views and that kind of thing, but a large chunk coming from stuff like the CRL or high level Call of Duty, CCL, stuff like that, and a few other broadcasts that get picked up that get good viewership. Eventually, I do believe esports will get to the point where we'll have more of like your traditional fan base for the big programs, for the well-established programs. I do think we're maybe even potentially even a couple decades away from that, to be quite honest. What we're gonna have to wait to see is like the big we have to wait for current students to eventually graduate, start families, bring their kids to games, that kind of stuff. That's where you're going to start to see those big fan numbers. So we're not there right now.
Yeah.
We have our facility coming in the early part of next year. We do have an area for viewership for spectators and that kind of thing, but we're only planning to at most seat 100 to 200 people, and that would be for extreme big events. On a regular weekly broadcast at night, I would expect somewhere around 20 to 40 people to hang out and watch games. That's kind of where we're at for viewership, I'd say. And most programs are there right now. Collegiate viewership outside of some of these high level streams like CRL, CCL is not really that good. But some of them have been able to do it. The high level competition has been able to do it. And I think over time, we're going to continue to see that creep up and higher.
So, I mean, Nate, this is kind of why we're talking about online community building is how do you shape the atmosphere and the intensity when it's maybe just online streaming, or is there something else involved like, integrating chat or Discord, or what's helping when it comes to online community building and activating fans or viewers while you're watching esports?
Sure. I think for us anyway, Discord has definitely been the biggest piece to that puzzle because it's allowed a wide range of students to join. They don't have to be interested in the competitive esports. They don't have to be interested in the titles that we're playing at the varsity level. They might be interested in Minecraft, or they might be interested in whatever the newest MMO is. They might just be interested in the community building of aspects to it. But that allows them to join a community of gamers and in an environment that they're comfortable joining, because for the most part, many of them have a variety of Discord servers that they're already engaging with. That allows us to help build that community. And then maybe some of those folks transition into fans of the varsity program, or maybe not rabid fans, but they're active viewers, active chatters if we're on Twitch or YouTube, wherever it might be. And then as we kind of gradually build that out and they feel more connected to the school itself and the brand itself and the mascot itself and the logo itself, then we can maybe hopefully, like Shaun was saying, down the line, build that fan base out, build that fan base from the folks that have graduated, that have been a part of that program, whether or not they were part of that varsity program or not, they were part of a wider, more inclusive community. So building out that inclusive community in Discord and not just making it a competitive haven for the folks on the varsity team is definitely the biggest number one step, I would say.
I wanted to throw out, if you're watching there on Twitch, this is the NJCAAE webinar series, and we've got some great guests. We've got Nate and Shaun, two college esport experts, and we're talking about building community. And please stick around on the Twitch channel as there's more to come, as well as Rocket League tournament going on later and Army National Guard representatives. But Nate, when we think about that building community, you hit on a lot of good points. You both hit on a lot of really good points. But first, I have a fun question before we get back in. what are your favorite video games right now?
Right now or of all time? Those are very different questions.
Both. So
Oh,
all
both.
time
Okay, all right.
and now. Get to thinking.
Okay, so I mean, of all time, I have to go with Counter-Strike 1.6. That's my go-to. It's what I played competitively when I was younger. So of all time, got to go with Counter-Strike 1.6. Right now, man, that's a tough question. I don't really have time for games a whole lot right now. I played a little bit of New World last month. That's the new flavor.
A little bit of New World is oxymoron, don't you know?
Yeah,
People
that's
get
true.
into it and never leave.
I guess it'll go to that right now, but I'd probably still default to CSGO if I had to take a pick. If you had a gun to my head.
Well, figuratively and literally, I hope not. But Shaun, favorite game of all time and what you're playing right now?
I don't know if it's my favorite of all time, but the one that jumped out in my mind, if I had to pick one game, would be like the Civilization series. Not an esport, but one that I can dump a ton of hours into, and I think it can keep me entertained for a long time. What am I playing right now? I haven't been playing a lot. Similar to what Nate said, it gets harder and harder. But I was playing a little bit of Pokemon Unite for a while, and then last night I just plugged back in the controller on the PC and played a little bit of Hades, if you've ever played Hades. So I jumped back into that. So that's kind of what I've been playing. Plan to probably play Hades for a couple more days until I get bored of that, and then we'll see what's next. When I can find one become available, I'm gonna pick up a new Xbox and jump into Halo. It's a little bit harder. I have a little one in the house now, and the nursery shares a wall with my office, so I can't play on my PC into the late hours of the night like I used to. Things change, so I got to go back down to living room gaming. So I got to get myself a console if they ever become available.
Yeah, playing with the boys and yelling at hackers is not doable very much with that wall. Nate, what's up?
Give Shaun some props for the Hades call out. Good game. I don't know about the controller aspect, but yeah, good game.
I started on playing it with mouse and keyboard, but then I plugged an Xbox controller in, and it was a game changer for me. I love that game on
That's a good. It is a good game. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
So all this kind of engagement here, we're talking about what people like, what video games, what they play. That's the community I think that is built probably in your Discords and with the students on campus. Do you guys have, like, in your student union, do you have esport arenas or labs or something? I think you mentioned, Shaun, maybe like 100-seat place. What do you have for physical space, Shaun?
Yeah, so my school, way before I was there, back in about 2005, they opened up an open gaming lab, I guess, with 30 Alienware PCs in it. And the reason they did that was because they just wanted the students to stop downloading video games on the workstation machines. So they're like, okay, you guys can just keep doing this over and over. We'll give you some space. So 2005, that opened up. And it was just kind of a room off on its own. Anybody go there and use it to game whenever you want. So there was no kind of organized structure around it. Eventually I came on board in 2017, and obviously that space already existed, but we didn't really want to just take that space over. We wanted to remain open for general population student use. So we built some smaller varsity facilities. So there was that 30 station room that was kind of open to students. We would use it for slightly larger things here and there, like tryouts and whatnot. And then we built another pair of rooms with 6 stations in them each. And that's what we've generally been working out of for the last couple years, is those 12 machines. So you don't need a lot to build a space to get yourself started in varsity.
Well, I've heard, and I don't know if this is true for you, Nate, as well, but or either one of you, really, Nate, I'm going to you on having a gaming lounge or a center or some sort of gaming looking facility in your student union. I feel like is probably a good recruitable space, or for space to walk recruits through, or even potential students.
Yeah, we have 3, and so it certainly does help with the recruitment aspect of things. So we've got one that's up in the football stadium, very visible. Another one that's in the student union, visible again, and then another one that's in the honors college that kind of acts as a free-play gaming type of area where folks who are in the central dormitories on campus can kind of filter down there and utilize that space. And again, a fairly visible area. They've been using it heavily to do general student recruitment as well. It's something that you can sign up for to see the esports facilities, and they'll take you through the spaces and show you what's going on. And it's been a good tool for the university to engage a potential student audience with.
That's great. And does it help when high school seniors are coming onto campus and saying, "Oh, there's the fitness center, there's the bookstore, there's a gaming lounge," when we know 97% of teenagers play video games? Is that helpful, I think, for high school seniors?
Certainly, yeah. And
Absolutely.
it's something where we bring a lot of high school seniors specifically to see the esports facilities on campus.
Love that. Well, as we wrap up here tonight, and I really appreciate all the insight and information, and like I said, you guys are experts in this field, and that's why we brought you on. We wanted to learn more. As we wrap up, though, building online community, is there something that schools need to know that has been successful when it comes to social media, or obviously the streaming, or influencers, or activations, TikTok? Is there something in the online community helping build that outside of Discord that we know is really successful for building community? I guess engagement. Is there engagement that you guys are activating when it comes to other kinds of social media?
I think the one thing I'll say, and this is kind of just in general, whether it's online or offline, is a lot of schools are launching varsity programs thinking this will solve my problem and we're going to engage a ton of students through varsity. The issue is varsity, like, unless you have unlimited scholarship budgets, varsity is only going to like target that top 1% of your student gamer population, right? So in general, if you're just looking to engage students, you're better off building things like weekly Smash Bros events or casual drop in and play gaming events. Like, things like that are going to be much more useful tools for student engagement, that kind of thing. So to give an example, about 2018, maybe late 2017, I just started assigning a work study student, go into this busy area, like near the cafeteria kind of thing, set up 4 or 5 stations, and we'll buy a banner that says drop in open gaming. And then I just want you to sit there and I want you to count how many people come in and use it. And he was getting to like 300-400 students, like unique students dropping in the span of 2 hours, to coming in to play. That just shows you the power of gaming and what it can do. And these are students that were probably sitting around between classes, bored, looking for something to do, and then all of a sudden we're providing it. Those students are going to go home and they're going to be much more, fulfilled with how their day went, because they're going to feel like they accomplished something, they had fun, they met people, they socialized, versus the students that were just kind of sitting around twiddling their thumbs for 2 hours in between class. So I think that's a really big important part, and a lot of startup varsity programs are kind of completely missing that, and they're thinking, yeah, we're gonna get the best Rocket League team in the world, but guess what? You have the best Rocket League team, you've helped 3 students.
Nate, what do you think? Community, social media, how does it play in? What kind of influence is there to build a community there through different social media channels?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some impact there. I would say I would caution against, especially if you're a smaller school or a smaller institution starting it out, I would caution against trying to reinvent the wheel. Your institution most likely has social media arms already in existence. That's a great way to start the outreach. You might not get all of that community, but you can start there for sure. Whether it's email, whether it's they're using Twitter, they're using Facebook, whatever it might be. Maybe not Facebook for this generation, but whatever they're using now, get aboard with that, send your message out that way, and then start building the community. For us, we're really active in Discord. We're really active on Twitter. We're really active on Twitch. We're dipping our toes into the TikTok water so far. We're trying to see how that goes, but I would encourage them to try different ways, try different methods of connecting with students, see what works. Shaun's example of doing the offline stuff, that's equally as important to the online stuff. But trying to do both things and connect them together will definitely help you engage more students on your campus.
Twitter, Discord, and TikTok, those are the places where these students live right now, and probably some other new platform that's up to tomorrow or next week. But if you guys are schools out there looking for support, that's a great point, Nate, about using kind of a jumping off point with leveraging the coattails of the social media of your campus and your institution. But yeah, if you're out there looking to get sponsors, Facebook is a place to go because those people, that's those people with a disposable income who are running businesses for sure. And any last thoughts, things we need to know about your program or community building?
If you're looking for more information about the University of Akron's program, uakron.edu/esports. Go Zips.
I guess I'll throw ours out there too. stclairsaints.ca. That's our main website. At Saints Gaming CA on pretty much every platform out there. Like Nate mentioned, mostly Twitter, Discord, and Twitch these days. Those are kind of the main 3 platforms we're focused on, and most esports programs really are right now.
Well, thank you guys. This has been great. I've learned a ton. I always love engaging with experts in the college space because there is a lot that we have seen develop over the last few years, if not the last 6 months. I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for being on the show tonight, and see you guys later.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.